Hello, 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 everyone. It is our market update, 2 o'clock. This is our new time that we are going to be doing our meetings now. I have Ben and Steph getting on, so let me invite Ben. Oh, okay, hold on. It's tweaking out. So I invited Ben to get on there. Let's see if I can invite Steph. She might have to request. But I am on, and we are going to be talking about the market and what's going on in today's education. There's a lot of stuff going on in the real estate market, and with gotta love a phone call. So let's see if I can get them on. How's everyone's day going? We had a Pride meeting today at KW, so I've got my RBN rainbow sticker on for Pride Month. So let's see if I can invite Steph. Approve Ben. There we go. There we go. Okay, now we're rocking and rolling. We got Ben jamming on, so just waiting for Steph to get on. We're having I was gonna say a three-way conversation, but that sounds weird, so.
Yeah, don't say that.
Gonna do it. So we have a lot that we're going to be discussing today, which is really exciting. Hold on, let me turn up. How's your day going, babe?
Amazing.
Amazing. So there's a lot. We were listening to the Housing Wire podcast earlier today about what's going on and changing in our industry, and just a lot is going on in real estate. So I don't know where Steph is. I want to bring her on.
I listened to that earlier. Actually listened to a couple parts twice. The thing that I really kind of on this side, which it may not relate to a lot of people out there, is that the mortgage companies are profitable again, and the actual like how they're making money and the yield that they used to make, when that is very slim and rates are high or rates are low, the projection of rates go up. When it's bigger and the rates are high, there's a projection that it can come down, which is great. So all the signs point to these rates coming down. I'm super optimistic and so excited for what the future holds for this industry.
That's awesome. What happens when rates go down, we're going to do the cost of waiting and what that looks like today, but we've got some great things. We're trying to see Steph asked to get on. Steph, if you just come watch the video, I should be able to add you, but I don't see that you're watching right now. Dun, dun, dun. Anyways, okay, so we'll keep figuring that out and going from that. So today we're going to talk about the market and what's going on in the market, the best ROI for sellers to get their home ready for sale, and average rents in King and Pierce County, which is just crazy, and what that looks like. There were some landlord-tenant information that came out today and changes. So if you're a renter or a landlord, you're going to want to listen to that information. And we're going to do the cost of waiting. And it would not be a live video if we didn't have technical difficulties, because I'm going to, in the past, Ben and I would have technical difficulties, but we're not doing that now. So let me see if I can get Steph on again.
It just proves us that we're never going to give up on you, because if we can get through this, we can get through any transaction.
Yes, exactly. Okay, well, I'm going to start with what was shared in our meeting today about landlord-tenant law information. So obviously there could be it can be more specific to micro areas and stuff, but overall, this is what the laws are. And then in some areas, it could be longer or shorter because they can govern their own information. Security deposits can't be more than 1 month's rent.
Mm.
So that is something that can't, that the new change of, uh, and I'm losing my words today. That is something new that's coming along. So security deposits cannot be more than 1 month's rent. They cannot charge more than a $75 late fee. So if you're a landlord or renting, this is a new thing. For service, support, or emotional support animals, they no longer, oh, I think Steph, I saw you pop up. Nope. Okay. They no longer can require an additional deposit. Okay, I see you. Let's see. I sent an invite.
She just
Oh,
sent.
I see it. There we go. Okay. There we go.
See,
They
we'll get
can
this.
join broadcast. They can't join your broadcast at this time. That's so weird. It's not letting me send a request. Can you try adding her, babe,
I don't have any.
on the bottom?
Forward it, and I can mute myself. Is the only two buttons, and I can like what we're doing here.
This is so weird. It's not letting me add her. Oh, now I lost Ben. Technical difficulties today. Jeez Louise. Okay, it's not letting me add anyone. Steph, something on your end. Maybe I can. Okay, I got Ben back on, but Steph, I think it's something on your end that's saying it's not. Oh, maybe that worked. Oh, yep. We're adding Steph. Woohoo! Yay, we did
Yay!
it! Yay, your hair looks so good. Okay, this is going to be a long live. So, we were just talking about landlord and tenant laws that have changed that I was just sharing. So, we'll go back over the security deposit cannot be more than 1 month's rent. They cannot charge more than a $75 late fee, and service support and emotional support animals, they can no longer charge an additional deposit for. Landlords can only do a 10% increase within a year, and they must give the tenants a 90-day notice of that increase. So that's huge too. In Seattle, they actually have to give 180 days of notice for increase. So, even though we're discussing these, just know that you need to be able to check your local landlord resource center to be able to get the information. We don't practice property management, but I think it's so important for buyers that are on the fence about wanting to purchase what that looks like. So make sure that you follow your state and local laws. And then the one that I found that I hear this all the time is they can no longer upcharge for month-to-month leases. So, where they'll say sign another 6 months or a year lease, or if you go month to month, your rent's going to increase to X. That's just happened with a client. And so they ended up signing a year and a half lease when they're not legally allowed to do that anymore. So if you
Is
go
that
month to month,
of
it
Wa-
cannot increase.
is that all of Washington now, or is this just by county?
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so as a tenant or a renter, if you are being charged a upcharge for month to month, that is no longer legal.
That's huge
So,
because I've had
yeah,
buyers that have had to re-sign a lease because their apartment complex, they're no longer in a lease, and their payment that they're paying per month for the lease is going up by double until they re-sign.
yeah, and they no
That,
longer can do that. Yeah, because they
that, that
chokehold them essentially. right, into that. And that's just, it's crazy. So I think that's really good.
Yeah.
That puts the pressure. I mean, unfortunately, it does put the pressure off the buyers a little bit. But that gives you more options to look and not having to put it on hold again because you're like, well, man, I don't want to just throw away that money. It seems really
Well,
silly.
yeah, it's
So,
allowing you to keep more in your savings for like your earnest money or your inspections and things like that, instead of being like, oh, well, I'm gonna have to come up with an extra $2,000 a month to stay here without re-signing. So
yeah.
that'll help.
Yep. Yeah, so those are some great information. And of course, we just want to be here to provide that information to you guys so that you know what you're aware of. I think there's a lot of shady landlords out there, just like there can be renters that aren't the best. So this goes on both sides, whether you're a landlord or a renter, we're here just to give you that information. So,
And when
okay,
did that
going in.
affect, Nick?
I don't know when it went into effect. I can get that information out. I just know that we went over it today at the team meeting, so I can put that
Okay.
in the comments below.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, please.
Let's talk about the best ROI return of investment for sellers to get their home ready for sale. Steph, what are you seeing out there in the market? Or Ben, what are you hearing? We'll start with Steph. For buyers, what are buyers looking for? What are they wanting?
Yeah, so kind of two-sided. So when it comes to, you being the seller, so on the seller side, I think it really depends on how long you've been in the home or how long you plan on being in the home. And that's going to tell us what investments are going to make the most sense for you if they're going to pay off. If you're planning on only being there for a couple years, then that's when you definitely want to chat with your local professional like us to tell you what's going to give you that return. What we're seeing from buyers right now, since the prices are a little bit more expensive, is they're really wanting it to be a clean, functional home. So it doesn't even have to be completely updated, but I'm telling my sellers to make sure, hire a professional cleaner. Let's get someone in there to do fresh paint. And maybe some light landscaping, make sure your appliances match. So really kind of those smaller things, but just so that it's ready for them to move in, where they're not going to have to do something right away. Like if there's nasty stained up carpet, let's get that taken care of, but nothing too crazy. Like you don't need to redo your siding on your house or anything like that. So just a move in ready home that presents well is going to be the best for both.
Yeah, and yeah, price and condition right now and location is what's going to matter when you're working with a seller. That's all really great information because a lot of times I hear is like, well, my neighbor did this and I need to do a kitchen remodel. If it's in good
Yeah.
condition and it's clean, you might be there, but really look at we were talking about this in our top 20% mastermind, like in the kitchen drawers, like when you pull out the drawer, is it all organized? Is the forks laying right where they need to be on the spoons? Those little details people look at. They
And
want to see
is it
that.
functioning? Like, do you have it
Mhm.
set up in a functional way? Like don't have your cupboards so cram-packed that they can't open and see what's going on. Like, exactly. Make sure your pantry's not overrun and things like that, because people want to be able to picture themselves in that home and what they're buying. So make sure that it's functional.
Yeah, yeah. So that staging advice is huge. We don't necessarily need to bring in stagers, maybe some virtual staging, but what are we doing to declutter and get that out? Because you don't want to look like you're hoarding, which we gain a lot of stuff, that's what we do, especially if you got kids. We got stuff for stuff, right? Put it in
Yeah.
your garage. That's totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
But what are we doing to de-minimize and, personalize what those things look like. So, what are you seeing, Ben, on your end for buyers and what
The
you're
the
asking?
biggest one I've seen recently, and it's probably been over the last year or two, is especially like younger homeowners that are first time home buyers. It's the smell of the home
Mhm.
and the move in ready for like if they have kids, because they will not want their kids to run on carpets that have been trashed by dogs, or so even that, just a carpet up or cleaning even. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the biggest. I've had clients literally in the last week that perfect home, perfect area, perfect everything, if the seller would have probably cleaned the carpets and did some minor things. We're not talking paint or new kitchen, and it made it smell a little better, they probably would have bought the house. And it's been on the market for like 6 months and probably that is the reason probably. So, and it doesn't cost a lot to do that. You know, it's minor compared to what the return of investment is for that, because no one wants to smell a house that, you know, it's been smoked
Well,
in
and
for
you don't smell your own stuff. So,
exactly.
hiring an agent that's willing to have those fierce conversations is so important because, I mean, I have dogs and, you all have a certain smell
Yeah,
and you just don't know what that looks like and you live in it. So, having a professional sit down and say, this is what we're going to need to do that doesn't have an emotional interest in, what that looks like. And it's just out giving you that best advice.
great,
So,
great.
That's a
and we talked to, yep.
Nick, that everybody that, when you're selling your own home, you're tied to those emotions of the home, but you need someone that's going to be willing to step back and look at that transparency. And I think another big point that a lot of sellers don't know, especially if they're first time sellers, is if you're working with a real estate agent like us, how we have vendors and stuff that we work with, we can usually get that covered out of closing. So don't be worried about necessarily having to fork out a check right this second. Like with Ben's deal he was just talking about, that easily could have been saved by agreeing to get a carpet cleaned, out of closing, or even new floors, whatever. And when it's coming out of that, that check at the end, that's a lot less of an issue than
Great.
trying to right now. So that's an option that a lot of sellers don't know about.
Great point.
Yeah, right. And once that buyer, back to that emotional risk, is once that buyer sees that, it's really hard for them to even imagine new carpet in there and there's more inventory. They're like, nope, we're just going to move on to the next one because it's like, man, if it smells, what else is wrong? Is there mold in
Yeah,
the attic? Is
that's
there,
exactly.
like it just they spiral, out of something that could have been really eliminated up front, and they're afraid to ask. They really are. So, that plays a part too, is they think that sellers aren't going to be able to do those things, and it's just an ask. So, but
Yeah,
our job as
there
agents
are,
is, yeah, go
like
ahead,
you
Steph.
No, exactly like you said, the buyers are afraid to ask, or even the agents. That's why it matters so much who you work with, because if you don't have an agent that's just even willing to ask the question, like, hey, can we do anything about the smell or the carpet? That could be the difference between getting that sale to go through or not. And
Yep.
so buyers don't know what they don't know, but those are the types of things your agent should be doing for you to see if we can come up with a solution. And we're just seeing them instead go on to the next house. Since we are seeing more inventory, they're like, man, whatever, we'll just go to the next one instead of ask those simple things.
Agreed.
Right. Well, and 78% of agents have never been in this seller's market. And we've really been in a seller's market for the last 14 years. And we are starting to see some of them turn into a neutral or buyer's market. And so teaming up with the right team or the right brokerage, that you're getting training is going to be huge too. But really the most important things that your agent does for you is manage emotional risk and financial risk. And those play a part on the buy side and the seller side. So, okay, we'll move on. Anything else you guys want to add to that?
No, that sounds good.
No. Okay, so let's talk about the cost of waiting. Ben, did you want to? I have my sticky notes. Do you want me to draw it out for you, or how did you want to go about this?
You know, you could definitely draw it out. I don't know how easy it is to see that. The biggest thing on the cost of waiting is, and I've seen a lot of this stuff online recently that shows kind of a comparison from a year from now, right? Compared to buying today, June 17th, and then or going out 1 year if the rates are 1% lower, right? If
Mhm.
the prices did still increase at 4 to 6%. If this all is there, there is a cost of you not buying now versus then, right? So we can do that if you want and write down a purchase price if you
Yep.
have
I
some
think we can
ideas.
go through the example of the one I put on there for you guys, and I can turn the camera around
Yeah, love it.
essentially, but let me get a big marker.
Perfect. And I got my
So where
later.
this, okay, so if we look at I'll put my computer over here too, and Steph, you can talk into this a little bit. So if we were gonna buy a home in 2025 versus 2026, can you guys see all of that?
Yeah, perfect.
Right? Okay, so in 2025, right now, we're going to look at a price point of 600,000.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to go through 2025 first. Let's just go, we're going to do a do you want to do, let's just do a 7% interest rate. Okay.
Perfect.
And we're going to put 5% down. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to do a 5% down payment. Okay. And we're gonna get closing cost. We're gonna get 12,000 in closing costs. Okay.
Okay.
Walk me through what would be the monthly payment on this if we were gonna
Well,
do this right now
we
in
don't have
2025.
insurance in this scenario, so I just want to make that clear. We're only going to do a principal and interest payment on the 600,000 minus, which would be 30,000 as a down payment. So if you want to write 30,000 next to the
Got
5%
it?
down.
Oh,
So
okay,
the
right here.
loan
There
amount,
you go.
so that's 600,000 times 5%, which ends up being 30,000, okay, as a down payment. So that leaves your loan amount that we're calculating the interest payment off of at 570,000. So if you want to put loan amount LA, just real quick, so we have that information on the screen for everybody.
Okay.
So 570,000 loan amount on a 30-year term, okay, at a 7% interest rate. The principal and interest payment, you're going to need bigger sticky notes, is $37.92, and I will round down in this instant just for the purposes of this video.
Yeah, and just know that we're not quoting rates, we're not quoting
Nope.
any of that or saying
This is
that you
just
sure this.
to compare an example, an apples
Yep.
to
Yep,
apples.
just to, yep. And so principal and interest, what does that not include?
Taxes, insurance, and mortgage insurance,
Mhm.
and any HOA dues or lot fees or anything extra monthly that would be associated with the home.
Okay.
And your agent should be able to tell you all of these extras just by looking up the home on the MLS. So between your agent
Correct.
and your lender, we can dial it in really, really close with
Yep.
that information.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so if we were going to look at, and Steph, I'm going to ask you why this would happen, but we're going to go into 2026, okay? And why would we be looking at the same home that was listed in 2025 potentially for 645? Why would that happen?
On average, even on the low end, you're going to be gaining 3 to 4% of equity every single year that you own a home. So exactly why that same home is going to cost more next year. We've been having the equity on homes go up continually since, I mean, I'm sure Ben can give us some specifics, but your house, the value of your house just goes up. It's just the way it
Yeah.
works.
And when interest rates go down, buyer demand goes up. And so, more a buyer demand where you may have one offer on this one, you may get two or three. This could
Yep.
even be higher. So we're going to look at a
That you're going to
6% interest rate. We'll do 5% down. Same thing. Okay. And then this one has no seller concessions.
I think that's to the seller concessions. So right now we are seeing those concessions because we're seeing more inventory, more houses for sale. And so to be competitive, we're seeing sellers offer those concessions. But as that competition goes back up, that's going to go away. So that 12 grand is now gone. You're having to come up with that out of your own pocket.
Well, and most closing costs are 3%. So who can do 3% times 645?
That would be
Ben,
Ben.
can you have that really quick?
I'm trying numbers on this. I apologize. What did you say?
Can you tell me what the closing cost would be on this for
5 times
645,
percent is
3%?
$19,350.
Okay, say that again.
At 3%, it's $19,350.
Well, and this one was an example of 12,000. I would say most of our buyers right now, and Steph could agree, that we're getting most all of closing costs paid for and potentially buy down rate. So this is money you're going to have to come up with on top of your 5% down payment. So let's walk through this one, Ben.
So I want to touch on the equity real quick and the price point. So last year, meaning right now, if you could buy this same home for 600,000, the reason why it goes up the 45,000 is there's really multiple factors. Not only does a home increase in value typically at 3 to sometimes 10+%, but like you said, as the rates start to go down, every 1% is about 5 million new qualified buyers coming into the market. So it may be that not just 1, 2, or 3, like you said, you may have 5 to 10 people offering on this home based on their qualifications. They've been waiting for rates to come down. So it does make sense, and we'll show you payment wise. If we just do the basic math, just on down payment at 5%, that's $32,250.
32,000 what?
250.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
And then if you minus that off the top, the loan amount comes out to $612,750. So before I go
Okay.
to the payment, I just want to look at the other one. If you remember, the home you bought over here, you put 30,000 down, and the loan amount was how much again?
3792.
70, right? Same home, 570. Now, if you buy in a year from now, when the price goes up 45,000, you're in a competitive market with no closing costs, your loan amount is 612. That right there is 40 some thousand dollars difference, right? And just if you're looking at numbers, not looking at payment, right? Going to closing costs, we got 12,000 now, right? If you bought it today, and next year there's a potential for you not to get that 12,000 or up to 19,000 depending on what the closing costs are for that specific home. So just using the 12,000 to add up the difference just in cost, I mean, it's over 50,000 in total cost difference between now and waiting a year. So the cost of waiting is 50,000, not including the payment.
Oh, I think that's more because you got 45,000 in this price plus the 19,000, right? So you have this money that you're going to need. You got 2250 here plus 45,000. And what I was going to say is, Steph, and I've seen this before, that when you're getting, let's say that it doesn't appraise, you're going to be competing against offers that want low appraisal money, right? So that means cash on top of these things that you need to bring in. So if the home only appraises at 640,000, you're covering that additional 5,000. If it only appraises at 615, you're bringing in that additional $30,000 to get that home. And
Yep.
that's scary to purchase a home that isn't valued at what it is. And that was 2021. That was COVID 2021 all over again. When we thought we were going to be non-extinct and the real estate market popped off, it was like 42% increase in equity that year. And people were bringing cash
And that's
to close.
people were bringing it. That's what I think everyone needs to understand too, that's listening, is you're probably thinking like, oh, that's dumb, I wouldn't do that. But almost every single offer that we were writing had some type of extra just in case of low appraisal. Anywhere from 5,000 was like a super low amount. We were at the point where it's like if you didn't have $15,000 or $20,000 to just give to low appraisal, you were not able to compete. So that's huge.
Yeah, first
Yeah,
time.
on top of what else were they doing, Steph? Yeah, Steph, what else were they doing in their
They were
offers?
their inspection, their financing, and everything. So they were way less protected when they were buying, but that was what they were having to do to even be competitive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you wanted to buy a house, there's not a first time home buyer market. And right now we're seeing that first time home buyer market back. Obviously, like you still need to make a certain amount, and that's the hard part is that jobs and income haven't been able to produce that same amount and follow trend of prices. So there is some issues there, but there's a lot of house hacking and opportunities for that we can talk to you about.
Yeah, the house hacking. I mean, I have to give a shout out to a lot of like my first time home buyers right now, the younger, like under 30 crowd. And it's their first time home buying and everything. And they are actually so motivated and are willing to be creative. And they're going in and buying with like a cousin or a brother or whatever. And it's investment opportunity to where they can gain that equity. And then down the road, they're going to keep it for 5 years. They're going to sell, split the equity, and then, move on. They're actually more motivated and getting into the homes I'm seeing better than like my older clientele who are just like, nah, we're not paying that. And so they're just sitting there on the sideline. And then this is just continuing to go up and up and up. They're not saving themselves. They're not doing themselves any favors. So I do have to just give a shout out to all of like my first time home buyers and my younger home buyers that are being creative just to get in the house. It does not have to be into a house. So you're not paying rent.
Well, in that, yeah, you're building, if you look at the scenario, where can you build $45,000 worth of equity to share with your cousin to move on to the next home, right? You're splitting that 50-50. I mean, you're still going to be ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes into all these parents that have kids that are going to college that don't have to be in a dorm for their first year. You should be looking at kiddie condos, we like to call them, which is where you buy an investment property, put that money down, they're already going to be living there in college, and you essentially can rent free for them with them and a bunch of buddies. They're safe in a home.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're renting it out to everyone for the next 4 years. And then, let's say you make 20 grand a year in equity, depending on the area, now you're paying yourself back for their college.
Yep.
And then you don't have student loan debt. Like there's so much strategy that can come around this. And, there's money just to be made because you have a ton of equity in your home. Let's pull that out, do an equity line of credit, and get that into that next property. But let's finish what we started over here and tell me what the principal and interest payment is on this.
The principal and interest payment on that loan amount is going to be $36.73.
Okay. So about $100, $120,
Yep.
Minus taxes, insurance.
Yeah, that's
My
just
handwriting is so sexy today. HOA, mortgage insurance. But the cash to close on this is going to be a lot higher. And that's the scary part is, I'm finding people are wanting to put more in reserves, and loans are requiring more in reserves for people versus it being in that realm.
But the one thing
So
a lot of these folks are doing in there, if you find these online, the cost of waiting is if you buy today, in a year from now, you can refinance. And some companies like us have no cost refi plans and plans to help you so that the cost of the refi is not outrageous. You can come in with zero out of pocket, come in, reduce your payment down to 6%. And if we rerun your current scenario versus that, and you look at when that 570 loan amount is now at 6%, that payment is now going to be about $100 less than you buying next year on top of spending $50,000 plus to buy the house. So it does make complete sense to buy today, yesterday, and they always say the best time to buy real estate is yesterday.
Yep.
mhm.
That forever, and it will continue to be that. We will look back in 5 years and say, man, we did this live, look at the prices, and they're going to be hundreds of thousands more, and we wish we would have had more people buy today that are currently not and sitting on the sideline.
Yeah, well, and I think people, date the rate, married the house, like was a great idea back then, but interest rates have not gone down. And so I think there's a lot of buyer hesitation in wanting to jump into the market because, man, that payment at 7% right now, theoretically, is a lot.
Mhm.
And maybe I could do it for a year. Maybe I could get a temporary rate buy down for the next 2 years. But what if rates don't go down in 2 years? So, there's a lot of hesitation, but what we can predict is that if interest rates do go down, historically, prices have increased. And if you're going to be in this home for the next 5 to 7 to 10 years, really, what happens next year is irrelevant unless you're having to sell your home pretty urgently. And we would not suggest that, obviously, unless it was an emergency with capital gains and how long you need to be in your home. But there's a lot of opportunity, and waiting may be a little scary. So,
That's what it is it's a lot of fear driven. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on like social media and that kind of stuff, but I think that's where it's like we're in a certain pocket, a certain area of prices, and things like that, and with our supply and demand. And I think this is where you should really just come and talk to your real estate agent or your lender in person and actually look at your overall financial picture, because there's also a lot of people have debt right now. Like the average debt is like over $10,000 or something, right, per
Right.
person and per household. And so if we can get rid of some of those payments, because we all know credit card payments are high, they snowball because those interest rates are so high. So it's like you're just pedaling in place. It's hard to get ahead on things like that. And same with car payments. So especially if you already own a home and you have equity, it still might make sense to refinance if we can consolidate
mhm.
all other bills. I mean, that's where, like with me and Tyler, if you look at what we did, because we just moved out to Eatonville a year ago, we left our Kent house and our interest rate was in the threes, but because of the equity that we built there, we were able to cash it in, pay off both of our vehicles, both of our newer vehicles, almost $50,000 in vehicle debt. We had a little bit of credit card debt, some medical bills, things like that. So we were able to wipe that clean. And so, yeah, now we have 7% for our interest rate, but our overall monthly bills are almost $1,500 less. So,
Yeah, getting rid of the car payments and the credit card. Those additional, Ben and I are working through that right now, right? $300 here, $200 there, this there. Your overall credit rating for everything might be 17%, might be 15%. Credit cards got to make their money. So they're, ranking up those rates as high as they can. So two more things. I want to talk about our vendor night, but before we go into that, we wanted to talk about the next don't in our do or don't series with buyers. And the next one is apply for or acquire any additional lines of credit. Ben, if you want to jump in and
Yeah.
talk about that and why that's
Speaking of
important.
credit lines and credit cards, you should not go when you're in the process of purchasing a home or refinancing a home. You should not go and open a line of credit. Not only can you not use it for a down payment, I want to say that again. Some people think, oh, I'll just go get a line of credit or I'll just go get a credit card and cash advance and I'll use that as my down payment. You cannot use borrowed funds unless it's from a 401k yourself or a prior home through a HELOC to purchase the next house, as long as you don't qualify. If it's a credit card or you're borrowing from a friend, you cannot do that. So do not apply for any additional credit lines, credit cards. It's the same as last week where do not go make any large purchases on credit. It does affect your debt to income ratio. And if you're buying at the top of that based on rates being a little higher right now, so you can create that long-term wealth plan, it puts you in the position where you may not qualify. So it's just like buying a couch, just like buying a car, going and get a credit line, even if it's cash in your bank, still has a debt to income monthly payment, which can affect your purchase price.
Well, and applying for that credit card or that line of credit can hit your credit and potentially lower your score, even if you don't use it.
Yep.
Two, I also think that people don't realize when they go under contract that they're like, oh, this is done. We're washing our hands. We're good to go. Like we talked about, and they'll go buy furniture. And it's like, nope, until we give you those keys in your hands and we have had recording numbers, we are not doing any of these don'ts, right? Like call and ask. I mean, Ben and I laugh. Like, we are so adamant about pressuring our clients to know, like, don't do this, don't do that. Like, we remind them 100 times. Like, they really do ask us. Like, if they're like, oh, Ben was on the other line. Can I do this really quick? And it's like, we're laughing because it's like, they'll know I can get a hold of him, texting him really quick. And he's like, yep, I'm calling them. We're good to go. But
That's
it's
how
like, it happens. Yeah.
yeah,
Like they'll be like, mom and dad, can we please,
yeah.
go out and do this vacation or whatever? And it's like, hold on. But it really is because we care about you and we don't want you not being homeless.
Before you go any further, I think we may have missed it. Did you tell us what the average rent price was in Pierce and King County? Did you have that info? I didn't get that. Maybe I
I
missed it.
did not tell you that. I can grab that right now. Why don't you guys talk about the vendor night really quick, Ben? If you can talk about when it is, and then Steph can talk about who we're looking for to come to this type of event.
So on the 25th of June, which is literally a week away, next, was it Thursday, I think, if I'm correct?
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday or Thursday. At 5:30 at Keller Williams and Federal Way. We can send you the address, or you can go ahead and we've all shared it a few times. Please go ahead and look for it. It's called Link Up. We are doing a vendor program for you guys to really just educate and bring solid businesses together to increase business for everybody. I'll let her talk about who we want to come, and that's everyone. But specifically, we're looking at 3 per person in that to come in and
Ben,
just throw
it's
their business.
Steph's turn. Yeah,
Sorry, Steph.
let Steph go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Beth. Yeah, so we're looking to partner with anyone and everyone that is a business owner. So we work with a lot of vendors as is with our buyers and sellers. So like if you're a roofer, if you're in construction, plumbing, but even more than that, like even if you have a coffee shop or you are a hairstylist, we're looking to try and get 3 really good vetted people per category per se, so that we can have that available to recommend to everyone that we work with. And you guys, we talk to thousands of people in a month. So like we have the potential to partner with you and actually help you improve your business and improve the actual whatever service is happening for our joint client, which is ultimately our goal. We want to make sure that our clients are taken care of, not just in real estate and lending, but we want to be able to be your go-to for, hey, do you know who can help me with my gutters? Absolutely. Let me go ahead and give you Tom's information. That's really our goal here. And what makes this different is that these people are vetted and they have background checks. So you're just not letting Joe Schmo into your house.
Yep, we talked about that last week, where a service provider was going out to other people's homes that was a registered sex offender, and that's scary. No judgment, just not someone that aligns with the NLA Real Estate
Oh,
Network and Ben's, Future First Mortgage to be on our vendor list. So we work with a lot of families, and that's just something that we are not aligned with, and we want to make sure that we're sending out vendors that have been vetted. So your first month's $75 actually goes to that, your background check, and we'll constantly do that with Bree. The first month, if you do sign up at our interest meeting, you get $20 off. So that's exciting. But bring a friend. If you have another friend in the business, and it doesn't have to be your own company, maybe you work for Flowhawks and you're a septic, like bring any way you can. So I did get that rent really quick for King County. It is $3,800 a month on average. And for Pierce County, it is $3,000.
Wow.
So pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. When we're looking at that number, yep, Steph, I know you gotta go. When you're looking at, thank you, Steph, for coming. Bye.
Joining us.
I think she got off. Okay. When
Yep.
you're looking at that payment that we just did for 3,600, 3,700, there's a lot of different options and tons of zero down programs, you guys. So many. So there's a lot of things where you're not having to bring cash to close. I think the last 3 or 4 buyers that we've worked with have done a zero down program. I've got their closing costs and concessions negotiated into the contract. We're getting a home warranty for that first year. It's like more and more and more and more add-on. I am concerned when the market and interest rates start to go down, what that looks like, and all these buyers on the fence. That aren't ready right now or have a fear, and then you're just going to miss that market. It is a great time for first time home buyers. It is a great time to sell your home still and monopolize on the opportunity on the buy side. So maybe you don't get exactly what you want when you're selling, but you will when you buy. And that to me is such a great opportunity.
Agreed. Agreed.
So we've been on here for 48 minutes. It's been a
Woohoo!
long talk. So we will hop off and let you guys get back to what you're doing. I do want to add one more thing. If you've made it all the way to the end of this video, we appreciate you and sharing this, liking this, commenting, suggesting your things. I had someone just come through and say move out cleans is great for when you're listing homes as a selling feature. So the home, everyone's cleanliness is different. So making sure that it's presentable and ready. But we appreciate your support, your relationship of choice for real estate with Ben and Nykole and then our guest Steph today. So hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.